You'd think a morning walk in Brooklyn with my human Henry would be nothing special. Well, usually it isn't. The big guy keeps things predictable, left at the stoop, right at the bakery. If I'm lucky, a crumb might still be on the ground. But this time was different. I sensed something strange in the air, something wild. It was a scent, like the deep smell of wet grass after rain, mixed with mystery? No, something beyond mystery. Adventure, maybe? But of course I did the normal thing. I barked at it, loudly. Let the universe know Frank's here and he doesn't back down. Henry just laughed. Calm down, big guy, there's no squirrel. Humans, no squirrel. I mean, there's a whole universe to bark at out here and he thinks it's only ever squirrels. Please. As we rounded the corner, my paws slowed, then froze. Across the street, sniffing around a pizza box, was a sight I'd never seen before in our neighborhood. A pack of dogs. 7 to be exact. 7 huge, scrappy, wild-looking dogs, all muscle and confidence. I puffed up. I'm not scared. But if I'm honest, I was totally scared. If they wanted to mess with me, I wasn't sure my bark would be enough. And Henry? Good guy, sure, but he's not exactly a warrior. I mean, he screams when he steps on a Lego. But a bulldog's got pride, right? And a job. To protect his human. So I gave my best, meanest growl and crossed the street. Henry, blissfully unaware, muttered something about other dogs and kept scrolling on his phone. Thanks for the backup, man. It's fine. I got this. They spotted me. The leader, a dark-furred hound with sharp eyes, stared right at me, his tail raised, body still. I could practically smell his authority. He walked forward, slow, deliberate, one paw in front of the other. His pack followed, flanking him like a crew of battle-hardened pirates. I planted my paws and barked. I mean, really barked. It's my best weapon, and I gave it my all. Henry, finally looking up from his phone, looked worried. Frank, come here, buddy. But this was my moment. I was going to show Henry I'm more than just the guy who eats his leftovers. I'm Frank the Bulldog, protector of humans, tamer of wild packs. The leader stopped just in front of me, sniffed once, and smirked. Yes, smirked. You got guts, little guy, he said, his voice low, almost a growl. His name, I learned later, was Rocky, but in that moment he was just a massive, intimidating hound who could probably flatten me with one paw swipe. But you know what I did? I stared right back. A bulldog never backs down. We stood there for what felt like hours, just staring each other down, until finally, he laughed, a deep rumbling chuckle. You're all right, Bulldog, he said, then turned and trotted back to his pack. I released a breath I didn't know I'd been holding. My legs were shaking, but I was still standing. Henry tugged on my leash, mumbling something about how I needed to behave. Oh, please. The guy barely understood what had just happened. We walked home, but I couldn't shake the feeling of pride mixed with a strange new excitement. I had faced Rocky's pack and lived to tell the tale. Over the next few days, I saw them around. I'd catch glimpses of them trotting through alleys, sniffing at trash cans or lounging in the park. I felt drawn to them, intrigued by their fearless spirit. What was life like for a dog who didn't have a soft bed and a human who brought him treats? Then one day, everything changed. I was lounging in our usual spot when Rocky appeared, alone. His gaze darted around and he looked nervous. That wasn't the Rocky I'd met. Before I could think, I trotted over, ears perked up. He flinched, but held his ground. What's the matter, big guy? I wanted to ask, but he just nodded his head toward the street. Following Rocky's lead, we ducked into an alley. I felt a thrill I hadn't known I could feel. Me, Frank, the couch-loving bulldog, running covert ops with the toughest dog in Brooklyn. Then I heard it, the unmistakable sound of a van, squeaky brakes, and a low growl from Rocky. It was the stray dog catchers. They were after him. Panic surged through me, but Rocky gave me a look. Help me and I'll owe you one, he seemed to say. Owe me one? Oh, I was all in. Together we darted between dumpsters, Rocky leading and me struggling to keep up. I tried my best to be stealthy, which isn't easy when you're built like a short, barrel-shaped tank. But hey, I did my best. Just when the van was closing in, we spotted a gap in the fence. Rocky, sleek and agile, slipped right through. Me? Not so much. I squeezed, wriggling and huffing, feeling the metal edges scrape against my fur until finally, with a loud pop, I shot through like a cork out of a bottle. Rocky gave me an approving nod, and I panted, proud. We waited until the van drove away, then Rocky turned to me, and this part's real. I think he actually smiled. "Thanks, Bulldog," he said, giving my shoulder a nudge. "You've got heart." Rocky introduced me to the rest of his pack, and let me tell you, they were nothing like the pampered pooches in the dog park. There was Luna, a lithe greyhound mix with nerves of steel. Scraps, a scruffy mutt who seemed to have a joke for everything. And Big Max, a gentle giant who towered over all of us but acted like he'd never hurt a fly. One by one, I learned their stories, their quirks, their dreams. With each new friend, my fears began to fade. Instead, I felt included, like maybe I'd finally found my place. Each evening, I'd trot out to the park, knowing I'd find my pack waiting. And Henry? Poor guy thought I was just burning off extra energy. Little did he know, his Bulldog was now an honorary member of Brooklyn's finest rogue dog crew. Life with the pack was an adventure I could never have imagined. Every night after Henry would settle into his late-night TV shows, usually with something like cold pizza that I wasn't allowed to touch, ridiculous, I'd slip out to meet my friends. We'd prowl the empty streets of Brooklyn, sniffing out every hidden corner, every strange scent, every little mystery the neighborhood had to offer. Rocky, of course, was the brains. He'd sniff out our routes, making sure we stayed clear of the dog catchers. Luna was our scout. She'd dart ahead, silent as a shadow, always alert. And me? I was the muscle, or so they told me, though I suspect they were just being kind. Whenever we got into a situation, I'd bark my loudest, my chest puffed up like I could take on the world. Most of the time, it was enough. One night, Scraps suggested we liberate some burgers left unattended on a food truck's counter. "Consider it a community service," he said, winking at me. I was nervous. After all, I'm not exactly built for stealth, and Henry might notice if I came home smelling like onions and ketchup. But with a little encouragement from Big Max, I found myself doing things I never dreamed I would. Hopping up to snatch a burger, darting back down with my prize, heart racing like I'd just run a marathon. It felt incredible, but things weren't always easy. Over time, I noticed a tension between Rocky and Luna. She wanted to move on, to find a place where they didn't have to dodge vans and live in alleys. Rocky, on the other hand, was stubborn. Brooklyn was his territory, and he wasn't leaving. One evening, while the rest of us were laughing and wrestling near the river, they started arguing, voices low but intense. I hung back, ears perked up, listening in even though I knew it wasn't my business. "I'm not going to end up in a cage, Rocky," Luna hissed, her eyes flashing. "We deserve better than this." "This is our home, Luna," he growled back, his voice steady, resolute. "And we stick together. That's how it's always been." Watching them argue hurt. They were like family to me, but I could feel the strain, the push and pull of their opposing dreams. I wanted to say something, to help them find a middle ground, but what did I know? I was just Frank, a bulldog with a soft bed and a human who probably worried when I was out too late. Determined to help, I hatched a plan. I told Henry we needed an extra long walk. An hour and 2 treats later, he was finally convinced. And I made my way to Rocky and Luna's usual hangout spot. They weren't there, but Big Max was, and he agreed to gather the pack for a family meeting. I think he could sense my urgency, and well, no one argues with Big Max. That night, under the streetlights, I sat in the center of the circle, my heart pounding. They all looked at me, curious and a bit amused. I was the rookie, after all. What did I know about leading a pack? But I took a deep breath and started talking. "Listen, guys," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. "I get it. Life out here is tough, and we all want different things. But, well, we're a team. We're better together. Maybe we can work something out that keeps us all safe and happy." Rocky and Luna exchanged a look, then nodded, both of them looking thoughtful. It wasn't much, but I could feel a glimmer of hope. If I'd learned anything from Henry, it was that sometimes you have to talk things out, even if it feels awkward. After a lot of back and forth, they finally agreed. They'd stay in Brooklyn for now, but start looking for a safer place. Maybe a big yard just outside the city. A few days after our meeting, I was out with Henry on our usual walk when we spotted the pack by the park, lounging around without a care in the world. They looked like they belonged there, like the city was finally theirs. Then, disaster struck. A pair of dog catchers rounded the corner, nets ready, eyes locked on Rocky and the others. I froze, my mind racing. This was it, the moment that would decide everything. I had to act. Without thinking, I lunged forward, barking with every ounce of courage in my body. Henry was caught off guard, his grip on my leash slipping as I bolted toward the catchers. My pack sprang to their feet, ready to scatter, but I kept barking, drawing the men's attention away. It worked. They lunged for me instead, giving the pack precious seconds to escape. But as I barked and snarled, something incredible happened. Henry, who'd managed to catch up, stood beside me, shouting at the catchers. "Back off!" he yelled, his voice fierce and protective. In that moment I knew I wasn't just Frank the Bulldog. I was Frank, defender of my human and my pack. The catchers backed off, probably realizing they were outmatched, and slinked away. I turned to see the pack watching, a mix of admiration and relief in their eyes. I'd done it. We'd done it. From that day on, things were different. Henry, bless his heart, finally understood that my nightly adventures weren't just me being restless. He even started bringing treats with us on our walks. "Just in case we run into your friends," he'd say with a wink. The pack became a regular part of our lives, and I could tell Henry had grown fond of them too. Sometimes he'd sit on a bench, watching us wrestle and play, a smile on his face. Rocky and Luna patched things up, and they even found a small yard in a quiet corner of the neighborhood, a place where they could stay safe but still be close to the city they loved. As for me, I'd found my place, not just as Henry's loyal bulldog, but as part of something bigger, a true pack, a family of wild, scrappy, and fiercely loyal friends. Each night as I lay on my soft bed, tired but happy, I'd think back on our adventures with a grin. Life in Brooklyn had changed forever, and I wouldn't have it any other way.